Racism should not be rewarded, no matter to which race it is applied. Shame on the racist politicians in South Africa. They should be shown no respect whatsoever anywhere in the world and shunned for being unashamedly racists.
That's very ironic, bro. That's very, very ironic. All right, so let's check my internet speeds real quick. I am in South Africa, guys. Let's see what speeds I'm getting. Almost hitting the 800 megabytes per second. Sometimes it do be hitting 1,000. But right now we fluctuating. Come on now. Come on now. Look, y'all. I had to show you guys that there is internet in Africa. You know what I mean? A lot of people don't think there's internet in Africa. So I had to go ahead and show you guys that there is internet in Africa, guys. It's really fast internet. Like, it's not no slow stuff. You know what I'm saying? This is very fast internet. So I've been seeing South Africa and Elon Musk going back and forth about Starlink. You know, I haven't really looked too much into it. I've just seen it on Twitter. You know, Elon's been tweeting a lot about Starlink. And now I'm curious, bro. I'm curious as an American that's been living in South Africa, who has had no problems with internet. You know what I mean? I just showed you all my speeds. I'm kind of curious on, like, one, why does Elon feel so entitled to bring Starlink to South Africa? If South Africa doesn't want Starlink, then why is he going to Twitter and saying that they're racist and things like that? And I've seen a lot of people on Twitter talking about there's a lot of places that don't have internet. Bro, I've been to the royal areas in Limpopo. I've been all over. People have internet, bro. People have internet. I've had cell phone reception in a lot of these places. I'm connected to Vodacom, so I don't know. I don't know, man. So I'm clueless. So we're gonna react to this video today, guys. We're gonna be checking out Elon Musk versus South Africa, the billion-dollar Starlink standoff. I got a lot of questions, but let's go ahead and check this video out, guys.
Would one of the world's most advanced satellite internet systems struggle to enter a market where over 600 foreign companies already operate successfully? This is the situation facing SpaceX's Starlink service in South Africa in 2026, where regulatory requirements, not technology, have become the central obstacle. At stake is not just market access, but a broader question about who sets the terms for digital infrastructure in emerging economies, and whether global tech firms can operate without adapting to local economic policies. What fundamentally changes now depends on how this standoff evolves. If Starlink complies with local ownership laws, it could unlock a large and underserved market while setting a precedent for other countries. If it refuses, it risks exclusion.
That's what I seen right here, y'all. There needs to be a 30% equity ownership. I don't know if it's South Africa, the country, or I've heard that it's 30%. It needs to be black owned. So like that's when it comes to my like why is it that deep? Like why does it, if they don't want it, they don't want it, bro. If you don't want to buy about this, then move on. I don't know. I don't know why it's that deep, bro. Since when do white people care about black people in rural areas? I just feel like there's a deeper thing to this, bro.
Not only from South Africa, but potentially from a wider regional bloc adopting similar policies. If governments soften their stance, it could signal a shift in how developing markets negotiate with global technology companies. Each path carries implications far beyond a single licensing dispute. To understand how this conflict emerged, you need to examine South Africa's regulatory and historical framework. Since the end of apartheid in 1994, economic transformation has been a central policy objective. The Black Economic Empowerment Framework, implemented across multiple sectors, was designed to increase participation of historically disadvantaged groups in the economy. In telecommunications, this policy is enforced by the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, which requires that at least 30% of equity in licensed telecom companies be held by such groups. This requirement is not unique in principle, but is strict in application. According to South African officials, more than 600 United States companies operate in the country while complying with local laws, including ownership structures and regulatory standards. That statistic was highlighted by Clayson Monyela, who leads public diplomacy at the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, as part of a broader argument that foreign firms are capable of adapting to these conditions. The dispute escalated when Elon Musk responded publicly, criticizing the policy and signaling resistance to altering Starlink's ownership structure. His reaction drew a firm response from the South African government. Presidential spokesperson Vincent Magwenya indicated that the country would not adjust its legal framework to accommodate a single company, suggesting that alternative global...
Exactly. That's my point, bro. Like, is South Africa just supposed to just change their laws just because you're Elon Musk? You know what I mean? Like, it's just entitlement to me. Like, all I hear is entitlement. He just feels like he's so entitled. Like, countries should change their laws so he could do this or that.
Global markets remained available if compliance was not acceptable. At the core of the disagreement is a structural mismatch between Starlink's business model and South Africa's regulatory expectations. Starlink operates as a vertically integrated service, maintaining centralized ownership and control over its satellite network, ground infrastructure, and service delivery. This model minimizes local equity participation, which directly conflicts with the 30% ownership requirement. For South African regulators, allowing an exception would undermine a policy framework applied consistently across industries. This tension reflects a broader pattern across Africa, where governments are increasingly asserting control over strategic sectors, such as telecommunications. In March 2026, Namibia rejected Starlink's license application through its regulatory authority.
I heard about that. Even Namibia rejected. So it's not just South Africa. But I don't see him on Twitter talking about Namibia, bro. He's been talking about South Africa. Hold on. Why did Namibia decline though?
Through its regulatory authority, due to a failure to meet a 51% local ownership threshold.
51%, bro. South Africa just want 30. Namibia want 51%, bro. Hey.
This higher requirement indicates that the issue is not
play.
isolated, but part of a regional trend emphasizing domestic participation in critical infrastructure. Despite regulatory resistance, demand for Starlink remains strong. In South Africa, some consumers have imported Starlink kits independently and subscribed through international roaming plans, often
Really?
at significantly higher costs than standard service pricing. This workaround highlights a gap between regulatory policy and consumer demand, where access to high-speed satellite internet is valued, particularly in underserved or rural areas with limited terrestrial connectivity. The situation also illustrates the evolving balance of power between multinational corporations and sovereign governments. Starlink brings advanced technology capable of delivering broadband speeds in regions lacking infrastructure.
Yeah.
But governments control market access.
Even though I do have connection in Limpopo, you know what I'm saying? It's not the speeds that I just showed you. It's not the speeds that I just showed you at all. I do have connection. Elon needs to, you know what I'm saying, just abide by the laws that have been placed. You know, this is not something that's just new and they're just putting it on him. Like, this is for anyone, you know? Namibia said 50, what they say, 51%? Hey, South Africa just said 30. That's a 70-30 split. That's smooth to me. If you wanna bring your whatever you're trying to bring into our country, if you want to have 100% ownership, hey, that means you're also competing with other, you know what I'm saying, other networks that's within South Africa. They have to profit somehow. You know what I'm saying? Other than the service. You feel me?
Through licensing and regulatory approval. In this case, South Africa is signaling that technological capability alone does not override domestic policy objectives. Now, consider the first scenario. What if Starlink agrees to comply with local ownership requirements? In that case, the company would gain access to South Africa's market and potentially expand across neighboring countries with similar policies.
Exactly.
However, it would also set a precedent that could influence negotiations in other regions, potentially requiring adjustments to its global operating model and reducing centralized control. A second scenario moves in the opposite direction. What if Starlink maintains its current structure and withdraws from the market? In that situation, South Africa would likely continue relying on existing telecom providers and alternative technologies, while Starlink would forego immediate expansion in a region with significant growth potential. This outcome could also reinforce regulatory confidence in maintaining strict ownership rules. There is a third possibility worth considering. What if consumer demand and regional competition pressure governments to revisit these policies? In that case, partial compromises could emerge, such as alternative compliance mechanisms or revised equity thresholds. This would represent a shift in how African markets balance inclusion goals with the need for technological investment. The geopolitical implications extend beyond telecommunications. Control over digital infrastructure increasingly intersects with economic sovereignty, national security, and development strategy. By enforcing ownership requirements, countries like South Africa and Namibia are asserting that participation in their digital economies must align with domestic priorities rather than external corporate models. At a broader level, this dispute highlights a structural tension in the global economy. Multinational technology firms operate at scale with standardized systems, while national governments regulate markets based on local conditions and historical context. When these frameworks conflict, the outcome depends on which side is willing to adapt. As this situation develops, key indicators include whether Starlink initiates formal negotiations to meet regulatory conditions, whether additional African countries adopt similar policies, and whether consumer demand influences policy adjustments. These factors will determine whether the current standoff evolves into a long-term exclusion or a negotiated entry. What remains uncertain is whether this case represents an isolated regulatory challenge or a wider shift in how emerging markets engage with global technology companies. South Africa's position suggests a clear preference for maintaining policy consistency over accommodating individual firms. The outcome will shape not only Starlink's regional ambitions, but also the broader relationship between technological innovation and national economic priorities.
Let's check this out real quick as well.
And moving on, let's turn our attention to South Africa. The war of words between the world's richest man and the Ramaphosa government is escalating. Elon Musk, who was born in Pretoria, has once again attacked his home country's telecom rules. This isn't just a business disagreement anymore. It has turned into a high-stakes allegation of corruption. And at the heart of the fight is Starlink, Musk's satellite internet service. Now, Starlink is expanding rapidly across the African continent. It is already live in places like Nigeria, Kenya, and Rwanda. However, it remains absent from South Africa. Why? Because Musk says that the rules are rigged, and now he's even alleging that bribery is at play.
South Africa won't allow Starlink to be licensed, even though I was born there, simply because I am not black. We were offered many times the opportunity to bribe our way to a license by pretending that a black guy runs Starlink South Africa, but I have refused to do so on principle.
Hey, we need proof. Y'all think that really happened, bro? We need proof. We need proof, bro.
But I have refused to do so on principle.
To understand the tension, we have to look at South Africa's Electronic Communications Act. Under current laws, any company applying for a national telecom license.
Any company. This is Act 36 of 2005, guys. This law was put into place, what is that, 21 years, I was going to say 21 years ago, bro. 21 years ago, fam. And Elon Musk is acting like this is something new, brand new. Bro, this has been in place for a long time, Elon. You're not above the law, bro. I know you might be the richest person in the world, but hey, you're not above this. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to South Africa to sticking to, you know what I'm saying, their laws. You know what I mean? 30%. Hold on, what is it? What is this law though? What is it?
A national telecom license must be at least 30% owned by historically disadvantaged groups. This includes women, black people, and persons with disabilities. This is part of the country's broad-based black economic empowerment policy. Now, these were introduced to compensate for the damage caused by apartheid. The Ramaphosa government says that these rules are non-negotiable, and they are designed to ensure economic equity. But just like US President Donald Trump, Musk has accused South Africa of discriminating against the white people. He has consistently refused to give up a 30% stake in Starlink to local partners.
Racism should not be rewarded, no matter to which race it is applied. Shame on the racist politicians in South Africa. They should be shown no respect whatsoever anywhere in the world and shunned for being unashamedly racists.
That's very ironic, bro. That's very, very ironic. He says racism should not be rewarded, no matter to which race it is applied. Don't you think that racism was rewarded for white people during apartheid and the effects have been shown now? Don't you think the effects of racism towards black people in America during slavery and segregation has you know what I'm saying, boosted the white economy well over the black people in the US? Bro, racism has been rewarded to the white people in South Africa and in America. So what is he what are you really talking about, Elon?
And amid the Starlink row with South Africa, Musk's supporters say that he is calling out systemic corruption. His critics, however, say he is simply being arrogant, expecting a sovereign nation to change its laws just to accommodate his business model. The South African government says that the door is open for Starlink if they play by the rules. They argue that other global giants like Microsoft and Amazon have found ways to invest in the country while respecting local laws. So what's stopping Starlink from doing the same if it wants to launch its services in the country? Another country in southern African region that has blocked Starlink is Namibia. The point of conflict remains the same, the ownership rules. Namibian law requires that at least 51% shares in any telecommunications company must be owned by citizens or local entities. But Musk hasn't budged on selling local equity. In fact, he has shown no signs of diluting his ownership. So for now, Starlink remains absent in countries like South Africa and Namibia. Will Musk's public pressure campaign succeed in forcing these nations to change their policies? Or will these countries hold their ground on local ownership rules, as they have been doing up until now? The coming days will reveal the answer to this question.
I think we'll hold our ground, bro. I think SA and Namibia will hold their ground. What do y'all think, man? What are y'all thoughts? What are y'all opinions on this? You know what I'm saying? Those are my thoughts. I feel like this is a law that came in 2005, bro. This is not anything new. It's not like they're forcing you to be here in South Africa. It's not like they're forcing you to be like, hey, you must come. You must give 30%. No. They're saying if you want to, then you have to. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to come into South Africa, then you have to give 30% ownership. The minority, or not the minority, but, you know what I'm saying, unprivileged from, you know what I'm saying, past situations, which I think is fair. I think it's fair. You know what I'm saying? If you look at the history of South Africa, you look at the history of America, racism has been rewarded. You know what I'm saying? For a certain group. Let me know what y'all opinions are, man. I hope you guys enjoy my reaction and commentary. Floor is open. Let me know what y'all thoughts are.